Hello, people. I'm laying here in my 58-degree house, and I have finished a book, Thermopylae, The Battle That Changed the World. I wish I had a nickel for every author that claims some battle had changed the world. Uh, I don't think things would have turned out any differently for Xerxes had Thermopylae not even happened. So, I don't really even know why I bought this book. I had just finished uh, Herodotus, so I'm really just going back over a lot of the stuff that was in his book. In large part, we wouldn't have even known the story of Thermopylae if it wasn't for Herodotus. This author, Paul Cartledge, he does go into, apparently there were a couple of other people writing at that time. Some of them they weren't writing, they were just singing some poetry. This guy really loves the Spartans. I mean, really loves the Spartans. So much so that this was only 255 pages. That's why it took me 5 days to finish it. He loved the Spartans so much that there's maybe 2 pages in the entire book where he discusses the setup that they have in Sparta. That's actually not the real name. It's like Lacedaemonians or something like that. It's fucking unpronounceable. Uh, the setup with there was probably only about 50,000 Spartiates, but they had probably 150,000 slaves doing all their work for them. You just can't overlook that. Certainly the Spartans were some brave people. For about 100 years, maybe a little bit longer, they were the force to be reckoned with in Greece, out of all the Greeks. But the Greeks were kind of like a miniature Europe. Eventually, everybody had their time on top. And, in fact, all Philip of Macedonia had to do was lengthen the spear a little bit, and then it was the Macedonians' turn. So, I do have a few notes here. A very few. Oh, crap, I got some reading to do. I haven't been turning on my furnace yet, and it's cold in the house, so I'm underneath the blankets. I got a cat in here with me. Last paragraph, page 188. Oh, this is about if you've ever wondered why they call actors thespians. It's because there was some guy named Thespis that he was the founder of Athenian tragic drama. But there was also a nation of Greeks that were the same thing. Page 197. I remember what this is too. It is an ill wind, proverbially, that blows nobody any good. Terrible and ghastly as were the tragic events of 9/11, they have also, I believe, provoked a salutary spate of Western reflection on just what it is to be Western. on what Western civilization is or might be. The process of re-examining and rethinking what is distinctive and admirable, or at any rate defensible, about Western civilization, values, and culture, seems to me both to have been in itself a wholly good thing, and to have had some notably positive outcomes. I remember 9/11, and I remember exactly what happened here in this country after 9/11. Our period of self-examination lasted about 2 days before we uh, turned to let's kill some Arabs, any Arabs. We don't care what they had to do with 9/11. On page 217, he brings up a really good point, and it made me, I really enjoyed Herodotus, even though Herodotus makes some claims in his book that are obviously not true. Uh, I never read anything that Marco Polo wrote, but I had been ready to totally discount Marco Polo because Marco Polo talks about going to the country of Prester John. And Prester John was just this common mythology that whirled around Europe, medieval Europe, uh, for a little while. People really wanted to think that there was a Christian uh, empire in the East. And the stories that were told about Prester John, he had this, palace made out of diamonds and this gigantic army, and it was all bullshit. And Marco Polo claims to have seen this in his book. So maybe I shouldn't be quite so harsh with Marco Polo. All right, the author brings up another interesting point. Was Leonidas at Marathon? Is that maybe one of the reasons that Leonidas was so hell-bent on dying at Thermopylae? Because the Spartans, as we all know, got to Marathon late, the day after the battle, and the Athenians got all the glory. The historians seem to be undecided about whether Leonidas was actually marched with his troops, because they showed up, and usually a Spartan king was leading them. Oh, there's some more reading here. 247 to 248. I hope this is important because I can't see very good. This is just some personal observations by the author. Let me first put my own cards on the table. I am not opposed to all religious belief and practice as such, though I do not happen to have any or do any myself. What matters to me as an intellectual is the place of any and all such religious activity and belief within a philosophical worldview. To declare my hand, I am firmly with the 5th century BCE Greek pluralist intellectual Protagoras, who is credited with having written that the subject of the gods was obscure, and that human life is too short fully to come to terms with understanding it. And equally firmly I am with Socrates, according to whom, as reported by his most brilliant disciple Plato, the unexamined life is not worth living for a human being. Intellectual examination or inquiry, whether of a Socratic or of a Protagorean sort, is in my view incompatible with any brand of religious fundamentalism. Indeed, if the pun may be pardoned, fundamentally so. And I agree with that paragraph. Spear length. I talked a little bit about it. Philip of Macedonia revolutionized uh, the phalanx warfare just by lengthening the fucking spear. Uh, and Herodotus goes into this big long section where he talks about all the troops that Xerxes has at his disposal, and he talks about their weaponry. They all use a short spear. So while I'm sure that the Spartans were much more highly trained warriors than most of the Persians were, the Persians were at a big disadvantage. If you can't reach them and they can reach you, they're going to kill you. And then my last little note here says the American Civil War. Early on in the American Civil War, the Southerners had a big advantage over the Northern troops in that they were familiar with firearms, they were familiar with riding a horse, and they were just, more at home in that kind of activity. And some of them, anyway, for much the same reason as the Spartans were. Because the Southerners had slaves to do all their shit work for them. They had time to ride around on horses hunting. And, people in the North, a lot of them, the ones from New York and everything, they were already working. They were already working jobs. They weren't riding around on horses. They had to learn how to do that shit. Anyways, I'm going to put this one on the shelf. I have another kind of a short book I'm going to read, so that'll be coming up soon. Thanks for watching.